Owen felt awkward standing in front of the mayor's door for the second day in a row. But he invited you, he had to remind himself. He wants to see you. He knocked on the door. It quickly swung open, and Lewis gave Owen a warm smile. I'm glad you took me up on my offer. Please, come inside. Yes, I like being treated like a person, Owen admitted for some reason. Lewis gave him a sad look that made Owen self-conscious, but it didn't yet speak as he sat them both down in his living room. Can I get you anything? Owen looked up before shrugging non-committally. Lewis made a tisk sound and moved to get something from his kitchen. Owen sat there, waiting patiently. He looked around the room, taking in the magnificent wall art. Decorative weapons hung from the walls, along with paintings that must have been worth a fortune. Owen got up and followed to the entryway of the kitchen, asking, "Why do you choose to live in Oakhurst when you are clearly wealthy?" Lewis looked up from the tea he had been brewing with a questioning look. "Pardon? Everything you have, the art, the furniture, everything. There is more wealth in this building than I have ever experienced, yet you live in this dreary village. You could find everything you have, the art, the furniture, everything. There is more wealth in this building than I have ever experienced, and yet you live here in this dreary village. You could find a place in the capital and live amongst people with similar class. You could have a private chef, and yet here you are making tea and gathering pastries by hand. Why?" Lewis gave him a soft smile, one that made Owen want to smile back at him. "The capital is no place for someone like me. I like it out here." "Someone like you?" Owen repeated, and Lewis simply shrugged. "Someone who's different." Owen considered Lewis. Someone who's different. Owen understood that. Gods, he understood that so incredibly well. Even if he were wealthy, Owen would never be able to live in a place like the capital. Not with how he is. He wondered what made Lewis different. He hoped the other man would tell him one day. Lewis motioned Owen over to the table that they'd sat in the day before as he carried a platter of warm pastries and tea over. Setting it down on the worn wood, Owen moved to the same seat he'd occupied the day before. "I don't know what you like, so here's an array. Have whatever you want. I've eaten," Lewis directed. With shaky fingers, Owen reached out to pick up one of the treats. He stared at it for a long few moments. He hadn't had anything similar to this in a very long time. It was hard enough to buy food that would keep him alive. Owen didn't even attempt to go for the things that would bring him joy. "Are you all right?" the mayor asked worriedly, breaking Owen's fixation, causing him to look up. He realized he was crying. Yeah, sorry, do you want to talk about it?" Lewis asked. No pressure." "No pressure," the lumberjack repeated before. I don't get to have sweet things, not since I was really little." "Why's that, if I may?" One of Owen's hands went to the bandages around the other, admitting, "People don't take my money. It's nearly impossible to even buy the necessities, let alone anything besides that." Lewis once again placed his hand beside Owen's, like he'd done before, but again not touching him, though Owen didn't think Lewis was avoiding touching him for the same reason everyone else did. Just like yesterday, the lumberjack brought his eyes up to meet the mayor's. "I'm sorry. I had no idea." "Then you haven't been paying enough attention," Owen snapped, all angry and self-righteous, because someone like Lewis, someone with power, should have been paying attention, should have seen. Owen wanted a fight. He'd been so angry for so long, but no one ever got close enough to get into an argument with him. But Lewis didn't yell. He didn't fight back. He simply tipped his head down in shame and agreed. "You're right. I'm sorry. I should have given you more thought." And all the fight drained out of Owen.